overcoming regret. So Margaret had children when she was really young. And unfortunately, her mother insisted that she should give her children to the mother, which would be the children's grandmother, to raise because she was so young and just getting started in life. So she let her mother raise her children. And as a result, her children kind of developed an estranged relationship with Margaret, and they started to regard the grandmother as their mom. Over the years, Margaret looking back at this and seeing how her relationship was estranged from her children, she began to feel regret over her decision. And the regret really started to consume her. It became so much that she would talk all the time about how much she regretted what she did, which would make her not very good company when her children would visit. And as a result of constantly weighing them down with her regrets and her sadness, her children didn't enjoy the visits. And over time, this pattern made it so that she became increasingly lonely. And of course, as a result, had even more regrets. So if you'll notice in this situation, Margaret's regrets led her to be sadder, more depressed, less optimized as a person, and living a life with more regret. So, can you relate to Margaret? Do you have things in your life that you regret? Do you have decisions that you made that you look back on and say, doggone it, I wish I wouldn't have made that decision? Do you become consumed like Margaret did, where you start to ruminate over and over, on and on about these regrets? One of the problems that can occur with complex trauma is we can have a problem living in the present. And so as a result, decision making becomes very difficult. We're either making decisions because we're afraid of something in our future, that's fear-based decision making, or we're making decisions due to regret from our past. And as a result, we do fear-based decisions, which are not your highest level decisions because they're not well thought out. And then you regret, you live in the past and think about, oh, I shouldn't have done this. I wish I would have done this differently, right? And you see the pattern that creates you. You don't make the best decisions because you're in trauma, and then you feel traumatized because you didn't make the best decisions. Complex trauma leads to regrets, but having regrets is also a symptom of complex trauma. So we get ourselves in a nice paradox of regret and pain. So we're constantly looking backwards at how bad everything was, and we fail to be able to properly live in the here and the now, and to properly live in our personal power because we're used to learned helplessness. So one situation, there was a man who told his ex-girlfriend from like 20 years ago, he shows back up in her life and he's like, I always regretted that we never dated properly. I should have made you my girlfriend. Who knows where we'd be right now? And so the woman said, well, I'm single. Let's date right now and see what happens. And then he goes, oh, I have a lot of problems right now with my car and so and so. And he made a bunch of excuses. And then he never actually dated her. So let's make sense of this. He feels regret, so much regret that he shows back up into her life and expresses his regret to her over what they didn't do in the past. But when presented with the opportunity to fix it or to do something right now, he just thought of all the reasons why he can't do anything right now. And he never did the thing that he always regretted that he didn't do. See the problem there? And this is the illogic that we can live in with complex trauma, where we feel so bad, but then when it's time to actually do something so that we don't feel bad later, we can't do anything right now because we're stuck. We have learned helplessness. We feel powerless. We are stuck in rumination. We're too depressed to feel motivated. We're lacking motivation. We lack the willpower. We lack the executive function. We have ADHD, and our doctor told us that we're autistic, right? So you have 1,000 reasons why you can't just do something right now, but that's just going to lead to more regret. And the biggest thing that holds us back from making a wise decision here and now is fear. That's what got you in trouble in the first place, right? If you look back to the thing you regret, probably 98% of the time, it's because you made a decision based on fear. There was something you were afraid of. It's not to beat up on yourself. It's just to understand yourself. The fear-based decision making leads to more regret. Keep that in mind. You want to take the time to analyze, even if it takes you days of deliberation on certain decisions. Try to take that space for yourself. Try to take that time for yourself to analyze. Okay, how will this play out in the long run? How will I feel? Right? That way we can minimize regrets. But for someone with complex trauma, it doesn't matter. Even if they made a decent decision, they still feel regret. So you may look back at your situation, and if you're honest about it, there might not have been anything wrong with your decision. There probably was no clear right or wrong. Look back at your situation. What do you regret? There might not have been a clear right and wrong in that situation. You go to the right, there's going to be consequences. You go to the left, there's going to be consequences. So you took a stab in the dark and you tried something. And then now that you did what you did, you look back and go, oh, I wish I would have tried something different. Is it helpful to live in that type of regret? Is it helpful to look back and to say, I wish, I wish, I wish? No matter what we did, even if the decision was the best decision that we could have made at the time. It's not helping us. But how do we get out of it? How do we stop feeling so much regret? How do we stop ruminating about the regret? Well, that's what I want to help you with uh, today. But in order to get out of it, we have to be able to take a step back and see it for really what it is. So a person who regrets is like the proverbial driver of the car. And let's say you're riding along with this driver, and then they were supposed to make a left-hand turn for the trip, and they missed their turn. So then they say, oh, I missed my turn. I should have turned back there. I regret not turning. What do you think you might say? And then they say, maybe you go, well, all right, it's gonna be okay. You could, oh my God, I just feel so bad that I didn't turn. Oh my, we'd be probably halfway to our destination by now if I had turned. And they just keep on driving straight. What do you think you might say? You're looking at more opportunities to turn, and then and then you go, you could, and they go, oh my gosh, every time I think about it, it just drives me insane how I could have turned back there. I can't believe I didn't turn. Are you seeing a lack of logic? Right? It's driving you insane. You're sitting next to them. You just turn now, right? That's what you're thinking. Stop crying about not turning and turn the car now, right? Turn now. That's what regret is like. When you regret, you're like that proverbial driver who just cries and whines and cries and whines over the turn that they could have made a few minutes ago. The solution is to turn now. What does that mean? Because you might say, well, I can't go back. I can't go back and change the past. That's exactly why there's no point in crying about it. There is no point in crying about your past because you can't go back and change it. What can you do? You can turn now. This is the only thing you can actually do. You can't predict what's going to happen in the future. You can't worry so much about what happened in the past. The past is good for extracting data, learning lessons. There's no sense in realizing you did something wrong if you don't learn any lessons. And a lesson learned but not applied is foolishness. It's like, I knew what the right thing to do was, but I didn't do it. That's the opposite of wisdom. So wisdom is when you apply what you know. That's wisdom. Okay, so now let's look at this. If I realize I should have turned, and right in this moment, should I waste my energy on thinking about what I could have done, or should I spend some of that energy on turning and cranking the wheel and doing what I can now? The reason why you understand that this person needs to turn the car now is because sitting in this passenger seat, kind of having this outsider viewpoint, you're not caught up in the emotions, you're caught in the logic of the situation. And the logic of the situation is always do what you can to get to your destination. That's the logic of the situation. And guess what? It's the same in life as it is in a trip because we're always moving toward our destination. That's called living in purpose. And so the key to life is to always do what you can to get to your destination. So sitting in the fields, which is what the driver is doing, they're just in their emotions. It might seem like the right thing to do, but it is counterproductive and it will not help you to get to where you got to go in life, right? So you have to view life as this is a journey where I'm trying to get to my destination. Focus on living in purpose helps you realize you should be in your personal power. Being in your personal power makes you realize that you need to do what you can now. That's what it means to turn left now. It doesn't mean that you can necessarily go back because you can't always go back. In fact, most of the time, the things we regret, we can't go back and change. And that's why we regret them. Although some of us with complex trauma will regret things that we could just get up and change, albeit. Nevertheless, I acknowledge that sometimes we can't change these things. So what do we do with the regret? How do we handle it? Because it's an overwhelming feeling, right? So you're saying, Roman, just be logical and don't regret. Well, how do I do that? We have to understand what regret is, okay? What it's supposed to be. All right. You were not designed with a program that's to make you keep making the same mistake over and over again, or to make you unbelievably sad and unrecoverable. That's not how you were designed. You were designed to be efficient, which is to learn from your mistakes, to grow. So regret is supposed to help you to grow. Does that make sense? Regret is for purpose. The regret is supposed to be a prompt to make you be better. That's what the regret is for. It's a negative feeling that prompts us to be better. When? In the present and future. It's a prompt. That's what the regret is. It's not there for you to sink into the depths of despair. That's not going to help you. So how is that going to help you? It's not going to help you. The painful feeling you get from regret is automated. Your subconscious will view a situation, realize that there was a potential that it could have gone better, and give you the pang of distress. In that moment, you must take it as a prompt. You should feel gratitude for it. You say, okay, I got it. Just like if your father or your wise mother was telling you, they were disciplining, they're saying, no, don't do that, do this. And it hurts to learn that you were wrong, right? But you appreciate the correction. You go, okay, I get it. I understand what I should have done differently. That's how we have to respond to regret. So write that in your notes. Regret is a prompt to be better. So the first thing you got to think when you feel the regret is, I got to be better. I got to do better. How, when, where, next time, if this were to happen again. And then you go into future pacing the situation. So if this were to happen again, how would I handle it? Why is this valuable? Because now we're learning lessons. The value of the regret was to learn a lesson from it. That's the value of the regret. Ideally, the man who was regretting that he didn't marry the woman wasn't recognizing the value of regret. He could have simply looked at the regret and said, you know what, I just learned something. Seeing how I feel now, from now on, if I have another opportunity with a woman like that, I will seize the opportunity. I will make her my girlfriend. I will marry her. I will propose, whatever. He's learned a lesson. Now he's become a better man. That's the value of regret. It's a prompt to be better. But he didn't do that, did he? He just stayed in the regret and stayed in the regret. Oh, I could be better. I should have. All the way to the point where he brings the regret to her. She says, okay, let's do something. And then, no, I got to go fix my car. And then he leaves. That's not even genuine. He didn't take the prompt to be better. He had an opportunity to do something now. He didn't do it. He could have realized it just changed his life from what he learned. But apparently he wasn't doing that either. He just wanted to stay stuck in the initial ping that you're going to get. So the initial ping is going to be automatic. It's a good thing. It doesn't harm you to feel an initial ping of, the aw shucks. Wow. Seeing how that turned out now, or seeing how I feel now, I wish I would have handled that differently. That's not bad. But immediately you have to transform that energy into something constructive. It's your job to do that. So be the conscious person and get out of your subconscious mind. In other words, wake up, become conscious. Well, becoming conscious is to realize your power. That's becoming conscious. To make choices, to make decisions. That's becoming conscious. So realize your power. Do it right now. Snap your fingers. Wake yourself up. Get out of your subconscious right now. Wow. Now recognize the immense amount of power. Do you feel more conscious? You can do that. You just wake yourself up and you'll realize, oh my gosh, I am in this room right now. I have 5 fingers. This is crazy. I've got all this power. There's so many things that you can do, even though it's a finite list. That's the only list you should focus on. It is not of benefit to have regret. So I'm sorry to tell you, regret is now banned from your life. There is no point to it. The initial pang of distress that you feel is not a prompt to regret for the rest of your life. It's a prompt to be better. You know what? I'm going to be more self-protective next time. I'm going to be more slick next time. I'm going to be more clever next time. I'm going to be more confidential next time. I'm going to be more, I'm going to take more action. I'm going to be more industrious. I'm going to work harder next time. I learned from this. That's the only value of that pang of distress that you get. It's to learn from it. Everything in the past, it's already concrete. Can't change it, but you can learn from it. We get to go back and watch parts of our past like a movie. What a blessing. That's all data. Everything you know about what you are, who you are, and what you can do, getting from the past. So if you're misinterpreting the past, you're operating on a faulty program. You don't even know what you're capable of because you're misinterpreting the past. You want to look at the past as, I'm a failure, I'm a loser, I only make bad decisions, I'm not capable. And then what conclusions do you come to for your present and your future? Well, I can't trust myself. I'm a failure, I'm a loser, I'm not capable. How's that going to help you? It's going to be a very terrible life. Why? Because you're doomed to have a terrible life? No. The truth of the matter is, you're just misinterpreting the past. So now's our moment to become conscious and look back. So take the situation that you are feeling regret about, and just take your piece of paper and your pencil or your pen and write down the regret. And then instead of just staying there, the exercise that you want to do is to write down how you are prompted to be better as a result of what happened last time. How are you prompted to be better as a result? And write that down on your piece of paper. Now I know I need to. From now on, I will. Write that down. It's a prompt for how to be better. Now I know that I need to. From now on, I will. Next time, if this were to happen again, write something like that. Every time you feel regret, I want you to utilize the same exercise to process the regret, because regret has to be processed out and become something else. We have to transfer that energy into a prompt to become better. That's what the energy is there for. It's a misuse of the energy to use it as a trapdoor into depression or rumination. Solve the problem. The problem is something happened that you can't change and you like the way it turned out. So what do you have the power to do? What will you do next time? How will you be better? Okay, so make sure in your notes, most important thing, you have regret is a prompt to be better. And then you write down your regrets on a piece of paper. And you do this exercise every time, and you write down after that how you will be better as a result. So, what do we do with the feeling of regret? When you intellectually change your perspective, the feelings will change. You can change your perspective, your values, or you can change reality. So, in a small number of cases, you can change the reality. It's just like you can literally go back, apologize to someone, and like change the situation. Like, oh, I regret selling my shoes, and then you can go back and say, hey, can I have my shoes back? Sometimes that works. Rarely is that the case, but sometimes you can literally just change the reality to get out of the regret. But often we have to examine changing our values or changing the perspective on it. Changing the values is to recognize that your regret centers around something that's important to you. That's why you feel regret. It's just that you want to be a good person. So that's why you feel bad for being a bad person or doing something that was bad. Or you would like to be someone who's more clever or more cunning or less naive, whatever it is you regret. Then you look back and you have to see, okay, what is the value here? What is this showing me? Is this a value I just need to change? Sometimes we're feeling regrets that we don't need to feel because we're valuing something that's not no longer important to us or doesn't need to be important to us anymore. In the case of the man who was worried about the girlfriend, it had been 20 years. It's time for him to bring the value down, which he was valuing her. He needed to just bring that down and realize that for him, he needs to move on and value himself and his life and create something that's going to be worthwhile for himself. To keep her up on the pedestal of like this one girl that got away, and meanwhile she's literally not away, she's just right there and she's still single. It was just unhealthy rumination. So he needed to change his values around that. Then finally, we can always change the perspective. We don't always need to change the values. We can't always change reality. You can always change your perspective. Your perspective is your way of looking at what happened. So with your regrets, the reason why you're feeling the emotional charge that's negative or unpleasant is because you're looking at all of the ways from a perspective of how it's bad. It's bad for you. It's bad for the world. It's bad for someone else. You're just seeing all the bad of it. Switch your perspective to what good has come out of this, or what good could possibly come out of it. So we could look back and realize, hey, the reason why I didn't take this action or that action was because I was trying to be kind to that person. So I can see something good, some silver lining in my decision. Or the reason why I didn't do this or do that, that would have been more cunning and more clever, is because I wanted to manifest that I was good, that I was being honest. And so that's why I did that. So again, I'm finding the silver lining in it. I'm focusing on that part. And that allows me to forgive myself. I'm changing the perspective. I can forgive myself and let go of the regret. So is it as simple as making a decision? Absolutely. We need to intellectually decide, hey, either I made a mistake or I made the best decision I could, and I got to let it go now. Why? Because that's good parenting. And it's your job to parent yourself. It's your job to parent you. A good parent doesn't say 20 years later to a kid, remember what that mistake you made? That was so stupid. That's not good parenting. So you have to talk to yourself the way you would talk to your child if your child did something that they regretted. It's okay. Hey, look at how things turned out. It may have been for the best. You never know how things might have been different. You never know if it really would have worked out better for you. It's better not to have any regrets. Hey, I'm proud of you. I forgive you for what you did. You still have many good qualities and you have so much to look back on and be proud of. The way that I'm talking to that child, that's a way that I must talk to myself. That's a way that you must talk to yourself. Even when we really did do something wrong, it still doesn't do us any good to hold ourselves in condemnation for the rest of our lives. That's not helpful. You're not going to be productive that way. And if you're not productive, then what are you doing for the rest of mankind? Holding yourself in condemnation for the rest of your life is not helpful. You can be productive. Even if you're in prison, you can be productive. And so focus on what you can do. Put the focus, put the emphasis on what you can do. If you're in jail, you have the ability to become a minister to those around you, to be a support, to be that counselor to them, and to lift them up and to help them. There's always something you can do, right? If you're in the hospital bed, you can still write on a notepad. You can write a whole book. If you can't write, you can still record voice notes. If you can't record a voice note, you can still dictate to someone else so that they can record. Is this making sense? If you can't dictate, you can imagine. You understand? There's always something you can do. There's something you can do. So focus on what you can do. Instead of saying, I can't, I can't, I can't, that's focusing on the infinite void of the things you can't control. Don't do that. And regret is in that infinite void. So we're going to make the decision right now. Take a deep breath and release the regret. What's done is done. I did what I did. Now I'm here and I'm going to focus on what I do have control over. Isn't that great? Well, I feel lighter already. I don't know about you.